Missed you too. Where are we going to start with this January season? What are your hopes for 2024? Oh gosh, that sounded very simple.
I know, that's very official, isn't it? So my hopes for 2024 are, I've got many. It's quite complicated. It's quite complex in my mind. I still feel like for me, January almost is flooded with ideas. And is slightly bad for people that need to be doing something. So if you're a creative person, and yet your creativity you can't really fulfill in that month, my brain races and it can be quite a challenging thing to keep calm. So in some respects I go off all gung-ho, this is what I'm going to do, it's going to be this, it's going to be that, and what it means is I'd like to be outside in the garden picking or gardening or doing whatever, keeping my brain like through a process. One thing is acknowledging mental January.
Yeah.
And just when I have these sort of thoughts of, oh, I am actually going to start doing this, I sort of have a moment going, now really, should I do that? I haven't even dared look at the seed box either, but that is an overwhelmingly outpouring of excessive seeds, which I'm sure does need to be categorized and does need to be sorted. And a note to yourselves to always check the seed box before you order any more seed.
Absolute top tip. Excellent tip. Excellent.
I'm dreadful for it. I have a moment going, oh, Cosmos Purity, I've just ordered some more of that and I've got like 5 packets of it. It's just...
And actually, even you growing on a professional scale, you probably only need about 15 plants because that's all of Cornwall. Yeah.
Cornwall is sorted. Becca has doubled, tripled up on her seeds. Yeah, exactly.
Oh, so generous. Have you got a system for categorizing your seeds?
No. And again, I sort of think that there is a process. And then I think the problem slightly is with categorizing seed is that, again, you could be really good with it at home, inside, in a dry, lovely January environment. And yet reality is when you need to go out and use them, all hell breaks loose because there's mud, your hands are cold, half of them get dropped on the floor. I don't know. So I don't seem to, no, it doesn't look very professional is all I'll say. My seed box does not look professional. So I suppose one of my jobs could be to do that. But my hopes really, I suppose, for this year is that I have a new bit of land that I'm growing on. And I'm really focusing that on outdoor perennial stock. Roses, dahlias, flowering shrubs, some really nice perennials.
Can you tell us a bit about that land?
So it's not far from me. I'd love to think that I've bought my forever home with 5 acres.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, I haven't won the lottery since we last spoke. So it's a bit of land that I'm renting. So it's very small. It's only, let me think, it is 10 meters wide by 20 meters long.
Okay.
So not huge. And that's why I've had to be really selective about what I've decided to grow in it. But what I found is I've got a very big polytunnel at the moment. So indoor space has never really been an issue for me, but a bit of outdoor space has been a bit of an issue since coming away from the farm. So being able to get that bit of land now has been really useful, because also I should say I have got a garden at my house, a garden where the flower studio is. So I have got outside. But each one of those does something slightly differently. And I think everyone probably can relate to this, is that sometimes actually although it's manic, it is quite nice to have a garden that almost tracks around the sun or has different soil and options, because you eliminate quite often things. If you haven't got a shady garden, it's hard to grow hellebores, for example, in an open field. Do you know what I mean? So I'm quite lucky now that in terms of how mad it is, I am able to grow quite a vast variety. If anything now, it's a case of going, okay, I really need to consolidate down because you could get a bit out of hand in a way. But I suppose for me, what I have learned over the years, coming to my 14th growing year, is those flowering shrubs. I really love them. I really love flowering shrubs. Obviously the perennial stock, things that are easy to mulch at the end of the season and go again. I'm in with annuals. I love the annuals as well. I do love the way I grow annuals. I'm always trying to go back to it, is almost like a big long row of annuals and just chuck them in. Because the other thing is, what I've found over the past is you grow these annuals on in seed trays and they're quite mothered. Whereas if you have direct sown them, a direct sowing is so much better. They just seem to be much hardier, much healthier, stand up against weather. And I trialed that last year on the new bit of land, and it just reminded me of when I started Garden Gate. I was just like, this reminds me of the first year when I literally bought £500 worth of seeds. It wasn't, we had a few other bits and pieces in that budget, but I couldn't believe how good the flowers were. And then the problem that happens, and I think it probably happens with flower growers all the time, is that you then have beds with other things in it. So you can't really direct sow like you used to be able to direct sow.
Yeah.
So having that bare bit of abandoned land that you can maybe cover over and just say, do you know what, this 8-meter length by 1 meter wide is just going to be my direct sowing, and maybe I do half the meter the first year and then half it each at each time. So I think a bit of playing around this year will be quite good fun. That's my
it feels a bit fresh, and it feels a bit, I think when you have a new bit of land or something changes, it's always good to remember that, to play a bit with it and to just be a bit more experimental with it.
I do stand there a lot. I do go up there a lot, stand and just go, oh, and then walk away and go, well, that was a good day. My husband and I, we took it on, and it was absolutely covered in brambles, membrane, stones, just in a terrible state. And I have had a lot of kudos from around me of how quickly we got it rabbit fenced, pathed, and turned around. But it is also, as we all know, virgin land, which I'm going to ride this beautiful wave of virgin land. Because we all know that if you invite Becca back in 2 years' time, I'll be the most disastrous. I've got voles, rabbits, pheasants.
There is
found me. You know?
There is a blessing that covers newly. I'm sure it's something to do with the microbiome, and I'm sure it's something to do with the levels of nutrition in soil. When you first uncover it, and it's just you beautiful. Can grow anything on it. Yeah, it's amazing.
I tell you the other thing.
Sorry, go on.
No, the other thing that's going to be new for me this year as well, and because I'm now getting into the mid-40 category, when you tick a box, is back protection.
Oh, right, okay. Raised beds?
Heavy gardening. One needs to think, I do a lot of this stuff on my own. So this is the year I'm not very good at compost, having my own compost, because again, if you don't have enough land to leave compost to turn it over, if you've not got the beauty of big bays where I'm literally growing on every single corner and patch and in pots, everything. So anyway, I don't do it. Love to, but it's just not possible. So I have done it, and I will put up a picture on Instagram at some stage, but I have stolched one bed and not the bed next to it. And the transformation over winter between stolched bed, unstolched bed is huge. So this whole thing of, and I've talked to a few people, you need to plant, don't have any gaps, especially you just don't want gaps. So even having something like a Phacelia crop in amongst your perennial stock, just got to have ground cover to suppress the weeds. But I am going to buy a bit more stolch, which seems very, well, I don't know what the word is, lavish, because it is very expensive. It's not cheap at all.
Why would you not just put a Phacelia crop in?
Well, I think I'll do that too. I will do that too. So where I need to, what I realized with this one bed is that I use loads of annuals, but also put a whole ton of Phacelia in the annual mix. So I mixed it all up and put a whole load of Phacelia in. And actually, where an annual doesn't take, a Phacelia really does. Yeah. So that works really well. And Phacelia is really nice. We should start using it more.
We should. And actually, so Phacelia is fiddleneck. So I sell it in the Gather seed shop, but I sell it as almost as a cut flower. But I have a confession to make, which is that I buy it in 10 kilo bags.
Yeah.
So I'm starting to wonder if I should just make sure that everyone knows that it can be used as a green manure and sell it in big bags so that everyone has some. I know lots of people who use it, and I have had great success with it, particularly not so much in the kitchen garden, but much more in sort of some fruit areas where I just let it. And it kept going for a couple of seasons because you only need a couple to flower and seed, and then that just self-sows the whole lot.
I've got it self-sown already from last year in my spring beds, out there. But I think just the environment that I'm around up there's a few other gardeners, and it's really nice hearing and chatting to them. And they're really, everyone does things differently. All growers grow in a different way. But I think the one thing I've learned is that spacing, I ignore all spacing, I always have ignored spacing, but I'm very aware now that bare soil will dry out, it will crack, and also leave some of those weeds because they're self-supporting of the flowers. I am the worst at supporting flowers, putting in frames. So actually, I think that whole you just got to accept if you're growing flowers, you're going to get weeds. But actually, if it's not taking over, don't worry too much. The one things that I do find really difficult are like couch grass, patches of those big clumpy grass. I don't think it's actually even couch grass. It's that really clumpy grass. They are like a hub they tend to go. And obviously anything that's going to have a flower and set seed like that, you do have to whip the heads off thistles and bits and pieces. I know you like to keep your thistles, don't you, sometimes?
Only for the birds, because I've noticed that the birds love them. So I can say I have a little patch which I leave, and that's the only place I've really got thistles. So although thistles are a sign of compacted ground, so if I have them in the actual field, I'm a bit like, oh, what's gone wrong here? So I will, pull them out in the fields, in the actual growing areas, but also have a bit of a think about why it's problematic.
So there's lots of new things happening this year. It's quite a full-on year, but this will be the second year of second or third, I can't remember actually, of having a little greenhouse. The kitchen, the sort of Victorian garden out at the front of the house is all done. So although I did learn that one should never grow, and I should have known this, one should never grow dahlias by a stone wall, and that is that.
Slugs?
Yep, snails. I literally must have had 1 million families of them. So they are not getting the cut this year, which is a shame because part of me had this idea that the Victorian garden would almost be a little synopsis of everything that I grow. But actually, again, the reality is some things just don't cope.
It's got to be right plant, wrong place.
Yes.
Right plant, right place. That's right. Yeah.
So that's quite fun.
Yeah. So I think this year, like you were saying about the soil, I think this is the year of soil. I think this is where we'll really start to get our head round no bare soil. Make sure you've got roots in the ground at all time. We really need to be caring for our soil. So that's definitely 2024 is the year of soil. What else is 24 about for you? What are your trends and things you've got your eye on?
I think pots. I get asked a lot about pot growing. I think because obviously I show a lot of it on Instagram, but obviously my tulips, my spring planting pots are really popular. And I think single variety, that sort of impact planting where when, that block. So if you've got a lovely front doorstep, one variety of really lovely pink lady or something like that. And then some really lovely Bellapock tulips. So there's really, you almost put them in different vessels, but you are making almost a display with 3 or 4 different varieties. And I really love that look. I love that look. Don't put too much in one pot.
Well, I think something that I'd really like to do, and I've been thinking about it for a while, and I guess I've sort of already done, but I do love like a single genus urn. Like an urn with just like one massive, lots of branches of the same thing, not all that mixed. Some people do it so well, but I do love that impact of like just beech.
Oh, I love it.
Had a big container just of beech. Or just of my quince is just starting to come out. So I'm just thinking about just bringing loads of quince inside and just having that real, just one thing and the impact of that. And I think that looks stunning.
I have to say, if I do pick for my own house, I have multiple bud vases. I'm looking where they are at the moment. They're around the kitchen. Multiple bud vases, but I never really go and pick a whole selection of my annuals and put them in a vase. Inevitably, it is single variety, a whole load of Cosmos Purity, or it's, like you said, a whole load of beech or that sort of thing. I just love that. I prefer that. And actually, probably randomly, I think actually because of the way I do grow in rows where it's like that. I don't. Actually, last year was the first year I mixed up all my seed of annuals and threw them all in. And actually, it did remind me, oh, I like that too. It's very chocolate boxy.
When you were talking about it earlier, and when we were talking about sort of putting all your annuals together, and I was thinking, I wonder if I'm brave enough to mention like mix and scatter or whatever. Because I remember I got a seed mix from, maybe it's Chilton's or someone, about 10 years ago. And it was just a big mix of reds, I think it was. And half the stuff didn't germinate because it wasn't really intended to all go together. But I did wonder whether or not, that was something that you tried.
I think, I did when I first started with the garden gate, Maz and I used to do it in blocks. So we would they'd be very close together, but we didn't mix the seed really all together. I don't know why I did it this time, but I just had a really blank row, had no time. And it was just, do you remember when we had all that hot weather, ridiculously hot weather? And then literally the forecast was the kids were going to break up for school and it was going to rain. So I knew and actually I think I sowed it and still the rain hadn't come. So I think I sowed it 2 weeks before the end of school holidays and thought, most of it's going to be bird seed. The birds will be all over the land picking it all up. But I think I just didn't have time. And I just thought, I am broadcasting this. I literally did nothing. I just had weeded the ground. I think I barely raked it and just literally scattered like that. But what I did find, which you don't, like I said, when you grow single varieties and all that sort of thing, everything supported one another. I've never grown such great cornflowers that was like that. Do you know what I mean? When I grow cornflowers, they're all like that. And yet these, because I don't know, they were just, everything was really, self-supporting.
Well, I think there's a lot of science behind that says you need a diversity of population to make the soil, the microbiome in the soil really happy, in the same way as we need diversity in our diet, that actually when we put like monocultures together, they don't function very well.
Well, it makes sense because honestly, there isn't any real rhyme or reason. They were next to various sort of cosmos. And actually, again, some of the cosmos lay on the ground, but when it lay on the ground, it sprouted up. It was absolutely amazing. It really was. And it did. And I had shocking yellows, California poppy yellow. And I went for a really basic, cheap mix, I have to say. I didn't go for anything. And maybe that's also, they're very strong colours, things that we all love a bit of peach. We all know that peach never germinates like purple. And I think there is an element of that as well. But I did pick buckets and buckets from that row. And it did make me quite happy. I still didn't have them scattered around like chocolate box in the house. It was nice to see them in the field.
I have to say, I've got a patch just when you first go into my flower field. I've got a lovely, beautiful sort of box-lined area, and I really wanted. I talked at the end of last year about the House and Garden did a series about designers doing borders, and there's an Arnie Maynard spring border, and I bought these magnolia trees and bought all the seed. I was going to grow everything. None of the seed has survived the winter. All got by either mice or slugs in the greenhouse. And so I'm a bit like, I'm coming into spring now with a bit of a blank canvas. So I'm going to, I think there's a couple of things in there that I need to get out, and then I'm going to cardboard it and mulch it. And I am seriously considering just getting lots of seed and broadcasting. I would probably do perennial seed and just try and get it to grow, but just get a sort of, not so much a meadowy look, but a matrix planting sort of.
That's what it looked like. In all honesty, from somebody that spends their life talking about colour and adding things together and making it look really cohesive and not, you couldn't walk past this patch without smiling. Like I said, there were colours in there. I would never, if that was on a seed packet on a wall, I'd never have picked it up. But I think because the blue, like that California yellow poppy, next to the Phacelia scattered in amongst it, it did this sort of like little hero sort of thing, a bit like, in fairness, dandelions do on a grass. You can't not love a dandelion in the grass because it does look really pretty. You might not want it there. It does sort of look quite cheerful, you know. So weirdly, I just went past and just thought, oh gosh, don't we all go full circle in life? So I think this is the year of going full circle, and just maybe trends do go full circle. And I do think, like I said, I think a lot of it is soil driven. I think we do need to be really, like I said, really careful on that side of things. Like I said, talking about the pots side of things, pots are great, but pots take a lot of work, a lot of water. They're not the most probably environmentally savvy things to have if you're being water conscious at all. I only massively use them for my spring stock because we have a terrible squirrels here. And they've been horrific, actually, since I put 3 raised beds in the garden in the front. So the dog is on constant squirrel watch in the garden.
Oh, okay.
But all my tulips pretty much sit right by my front door.
Yeah.
So that keeps anything at bay quite well.
I have to say, I don't have that many pots anymore, but I have got a beautiful toffee apple tree in a pot, and it's always had stuff around it, aqualegia and strawberries. And every time I've been out, I've been like, why are my strawberries upside down? The roots in the air. And I've realized that it feels like every night another tulip bulb is gone.
Yeah.
So the squirrels are just
or they're digging in. I think ours are putting acorns into our raised beds as well. It's ridiculous. It's just, I'm going to have loads of acorn trees, oak trees, acorn trees, oak trees everywhere. But yeah, I think the pots, what I tend to do with the pots then is almost, if you've got somewhere in your garden, you can just put them aside and just, because I don't know about you, but like last year it was so dry. Yeah, it slightly becomes a chore. And when it really becomes a chore, I'm not entirely sure how great it is.
Yeah. I grew some salad leaves in quite big sort of trays. Like deep boxes, but like you say, with the heat, and salad leaves don't like the heat anyway, and they just everything bolted, everything dried, and it just felt really it's not really great. The only thing is that I've got a house where I haven't got any soil right by the house, so I really feel like I need that that softness by the house. It's really it is really difficult. The one thing I have noticed actually though, the viburnum opulus that I put in a pot has gone through the gravel into I don't know what. So maybe the thing is to plant things with funny bomb. They just go straight through. I learned from Southwood Farm, Arnie Maynard's design in Honiton, has some beautiful courtyards, and rather than having lots of pots, they have one massive container and a tree in it. And actually that made me think, yes, in terms of all that fiddling around and making sure everything's watered, I've gone big and put a big plant in it. And that's sort of
every day. It's just so good. I in fairness that I have got trees in pots in the front garden, and it is so much better to do that. But pots are so expensive.
Yeah, mine are all in metal troughs actually. So I renovation yards and things like that for big.
Yeah, I've got those, but I just think even those have got a lot more expensive than when I was buying them or finding them on the farm. I wish we'd found more on the farm before we left. Yeah, exactly.
Facebook Marketplace has got a lot to answer for.
Yeah, they really do.
Yeah. Fabulous. Soil it is, new ground, shrubs. Oh, something I meant to ask you whilst you were talking about it and you were getting excited about shrubs and perennials. If you had a new garden and you had to plant one shrub only, what would it be?
A hebe.
Really?
Love them. I love them.
Oh.
I love them. Not the tight ones that you see at car parks.
Yeah.
With the really long flowering trendrils with long, thin. You're going to ask me what varieties. There's like a million varieties of hebe. They're like, and even if you want a particular one, you'll probably never find it. It's one of those ones. But I always go for the really loose cone ones with the very sort of narrow leaf rather than a waxy, short, stubby. When you say hebe, people think, oh, ball. I'm not saying that.
Well, the reason I'm making this face is that there is one in the garden of the new cottage, and I've just ordered a chainsaw from Screwfix. It was going to be the first thing that came out.
I can't.
It's
well,
purple.
you don't do wedding. You don't do bridal work, do you?
No, I don't. No, it's purple. Like the flower is that proper purple.
Yeah. Okay. So I don't grow the purple. I grow white.
Yes, obviously.
I grow white. Yeah. So I've got a few. I've had cuttings from one that is really good of a neighbour, and we've now managed to get a few plants off that one. They take from cuttings really, and they grow very quickly. They're probably short-lived. So I think the way that I cut them, you do want to keep replacing the stock every year. But if you go and look at any of my bridal work, I love a Hebe. I absolutely love a Hebe. So much. I put a Hebe in the garden over an Alomankia, and go figure that. I know that, and yellow poppies. What is happening to me? You know what I think it is though? Alomankia, it's only, love it, but it does only look good for a very short amount of time when it's flowering.
I disagree. I disagree, because you get, with an Amelanchier, you get the blossom, you get the foliage, you get the berries. The berries last 48 hours, but they're worth it. And I love the shape of them.
No, don't get me wrong, I do. And if I had a bigger space, obviously I'd have more things.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I'm going to go and have a look at this Hebe, and it might get a stay of execution. Unlikely, if I'm perfectly honest, because it's sort of in the middle of a
The
lawn.
purple ones are quite common though, aren't they? I know what you mean about the purple ones. And also, the only thing I will say, don't feel bad about chainsawing it, because if it's been there a very long time, they are, when they start to look a bit shitty, they are shit. Do you know what I mean? They are time to go.
It looks quite disheveled, I have to say.
Yeah. And they go a bit, they do go a bit sort of branchy, with
very branchy.
Done that where it goes, yeah.
But I mean, it's 8-9 foot tall. It's huge.
Oh, it's a shame I just can't pop up for the foliage, isn't it?
I was already thinking I'm going to come down to you in May to go and see the magnolias. I thought I might pick up a white Hebe cutting.
Yeah, exactly. But no, that I love flowering shrubs. I just think I've gone a lot into pittosporums as well, because for me, with doing a lot of wedding work, it's really light and airy and it works really well. And again, you cut it, it's very forgiving. And it lightens up a back corner. So if you've got a very dark area, it's quite nice at the back. But again, I can tell it's like,
yeah, you could say it cures cancer, and I'd probably still go, well, it's a pittosporum though, isn't it?
Yeah, I know. Well, this is the thing. And actually, what's really interesting is I would grow totally different shrubs in my garden for garden than I would for cutting.
I just grow stuff because I love it. Like, I have no brief that I need to fulfill.
No, you know.
Can I eat it or can I photograph it, basically?
Agreed. And I don't think a pittosporum is particularly amazing, whereas an Alomankia looks incredible. But when you use it constantly in wedding work, it's like literally I could do with 8 pittosporum trees in a year. So I've got no worries that you're going to come and nick them. What about an abelia? Do you still feel the same about abelias?
I have 3 abelias in my flower field now, and that was just after that course we did at Nancaro. Beautiful. And you used so much of it, and it was so lovely. And actually, I was just thinking, we're January now, and I was mentally sort of putting together my photographing the gallery for what's out in January, and I was thinking, do I include it? Because actually the flowers have gone, but you get this beautiful pink iridescent
flush of foliage. I love it.
I don't know if they're sepals or foliage, but it still looks like it's in flower, even though I know the flower has dropped. So it's looking stunning.
I love them. I absolutely love them. I've got probably 10 of them.
Yeah.
And they are an absolute winner. They really are. You can almost, if you wanted a hedge line, they make a really good hedge line as well.
My mum's next door neighbour's got a hedge of them actually, and I did eye it for cuttings, but I did end up just buying the Abelia grandiflora in the end and just planted them there.
They're not very expensive either, are they? I don't think they're too bad.
And they put on a lot of growth very quickly. Yeah. Mine's only, it would have gone in autumn last year, so it was like 14 months old, and it's 5 foot now.
Yeah,
probably needs a cut back. Actually, it's looking a bit leggy.
The third one, though, I'd recommend it's a spirea.
You and Millie Proust absolutely on point on that one. She swears by a spirea.
Oh, I love a spirea. To be honest with you, that is really the shrubs I grow. Hebe, spireas, and I've got this sort of stock of pittosporum that I'm hoping at some stage, probably I'll be retired by the time I'm ready to cut them, like I do at the moment. But like, they make really good. And actually, colour-wise, they're very complementary. They look really nice together. Or Nine Bark. Oh, God, actually, you've started something now.
Well, I got really into 9 bark when Rachel Siegfried's book came out. I got all obsessed by perennial shrubs. I planted a lot, which I will share soon, actually, because I'm just putting a new fence in.
Very you colour, actually.
But I bought, they're really great colours for me because I love those deep rusty colours. So I've got some of the Diablo ones, but also some of the redder ones. There's a sort of
they're lovely
much softer rather than the very dark purpley ones. Yeah, I'm not sure they're big enough to take lots of cuttings from. I was thinking about it, but I might give them another year and then.
Interesting. I haven't used them very much in my wedding work though. And from not using them in wedding work, the shrub has become absolutely stunning in the garden. It looks amazing.
Whereas everything else is hacked down to the ground.
Yeah. It's a bit like that. Yeah, it is a bit like that. I mean, I definitely don't have a show garden, that's for sure. You know, one day maybe. But I mean, that's what I say to you, the flowering shrubs, I just love them. And that's why I really wanted to be able to have, and you need a bit of decent land to have some decent flowering shrubs, you know.
But coming right back full circle, that idea of perennial shrubs, of just having those roots in the ground, that permanency and stability in the ground, that's what our soil needs. So I think this sort of throwing lots of annual seeds around and then whipping them out again and keeping going, I'm definitely moving a lot more to perennials. And I think perennials are a great way of saying, you dig it in once and that's it, you're done. You just have to keep it going.
I think it should be, you should think of perennials as your think of plants as your wardrobe, okay?
Yeah.
80% of your garden should be perennials. Yeah. So 80% of your garden is of your wardrobe. Everything goes together. So it's your classic sort of straws, blacks, or whatever, I don't know, whatever you think is.
And then so navy, I'm grey today.
Maybe, yeah. But you know what it is? It's your jeans and your classic jumpers. And then your 20% is your fashion trends, is your elements to make it look better. Your new scarf or your dangly jewelry. Do you know what I mean? And that should be annuals. That literally, I think it should be the icing on the cake should be your annual crop. And it's your filler, really. Yeah. And I say that, but I still I'll have a row. I think I will continue to have a row if I do it in a very diverse way without getting overly worried about it being regimented, because I think that is also the only way that it works really well. Yeah. From a real cross-pollination and it's really good for nature, isn't it?
That's absolutely transformed my plan for my box area. I think I'm just going to research a colour scheme and a mix that I like together, and I'm just going to broadcast sow it.
I've got a delivery of flowers come to the door.
Thank you.
1 minute. That's hilarious.
Who sent you flowers? Are you allowed to say?
I sent myself flowers.
Did you?
Actually, they are for a friend that is got a birthday on Thursday, and they are paper whites from the Scilly Isles. Oh. Because all I recommend at this time of year is boxes of paper whites. Yeah. So, and they just make lovely presents.
Absolutely.
They make such nice presents. They're so beautifully wrapped. And I just think they're a bit of spring. Hope of spring, let's say.
Absolutely. And I hope for an exciting 2024 for all of us.
It would be really nice. Let's have a calm one.
Yes, with an exciting flurry of Chelsea in the middle of it.
Oh, yes. That would be very nice. Yes. I'm not sure we can top last year, though. Can we? I'm not sure.
It was
a TV show at Chelsea, potentially. Anyone out there wanting to back that? You know?
It was very exciting. I am refreshing the Chelsea press page a lot at the moment, but yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, thank you very much for your time.
Happy pleasure.
2024, and we will catch up in Magnolia season.
That would be amazing. Thanks, Grace. Lovely to chat to you.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.